Good evening. It's just gone 8 p.m. and you're watching Newsplus with me, Wadzanai Sansole, right here on ZTN Prime. These are your headlines tonight. President Mnangagwa has expressed concern over the rise in reckless driving on the country's roads, which he said is robbing the country of many lives and cannot be allowed to continue. He directed Zimbabwe Republic Police, along with other stakeholders, such as the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure Development, to enforce road traffic regulations with greater stringency. That story coming up when we look at his address at the ZANU-PF Politburo meeting in Harare today. We get reactions from market watchers on the directive by President Mnangagwa to ministries and government departments to review levies and permit fees charged on businesses. Finance Minister Professor Mthuli Ncube also highlighted the timelines for the reforms. SADC Chairperson President Mnangagwa is expected in Kenya tomorrow, where he will, together with other leaders, finalize the formal appointment of 5 facilitators to tackle the conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. And in sport, Taylor added to Chevron's test squad after completing ban. A closer look at the stories making the headlines this evening. President Emmerson Mnangagwa has warned drivers to desist from driving recklessly and prioritize road safety. This comes after the Seke road accident that claimed 17 lives and was declared a national disaster. Now, the president made the call while addressing the 385th Politburo meeting held at the ZANU-PF headquarters in Harare this afternoon, where several issues, including empowerment and ruling party's constitutionality, were discussed. More from the following report.
A worrying trend is emerging on the country's roads, with at least 17 people killed in the recent Seke road disaster. The statistics are chilling, with the national toll in the past week potentially higher than 17. President Mnangagwa has sounded an alarm, warning drivers to follow traffic rules and exercise caution on the roads.
The Zimbabwe Republic Police, along with other stakeholders, such as the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure Development, have been directed to enforce road traffic regulations with greater stringency. However, the responsibility of safety on our roads lies with each and every road user.
President Mnangagwa also called for the implementation of various empowerment projects being undertaken throughout the country.
A broader base of our membership must be the target in our empowerment programs and not restricted to a few people in the leadership levels of our structures. As departments, I will be expecting disaggregated reports of how many people we have uplifted, word by word.
Some of the key issues that were discussed include the ruling party's constitution. The president emphasized that as the party adapts to the evolving needs of citizens and its members, it must do so within the confines of its constitution. The ZANU-PF constitution was last amended in 2014 to allow a sitting first secretary to appoint their 2 deputies and chairperson of the party.
As we do so, however, our colossal mass party ZANU-PF must never compromise on its constitution, its values, its principles and its ideology. The ultimate price paid by all those who waged the protracted armed liberation struggle and those currently defending it should be honored.
The Politburo also received reports of preparations towards the annual ZANU-PF People's Conference slated for October in Mutare. This comes as the party is celebrating victories from local authority by-elections held in Masvingo, Mashonaland Central and Mashonaland East provinces.
The Politburo is thus expected to receive update reports on the state of preparedness with regards to the National People's Conference, Heroes and Defense Forces Day celebrations, as well as other matters of our party and government programs.
A closed-door meeting ensued after President Mnangagwa's welcome remarks. Shira Mujinjema for ZTN News at ZANU-PF headquarters.
And now, Wallace Rujidzo, our Zim Papers political reporter who covered today's Politburo, joins us live to give us some of the key takeaways from today's sitting. Wallace, good evening. What were some of the key issues that were discussed at today's Politburo meeting?
Good evening. Well, some of the major takeaways from today's session included how the President reaffirmed ZANU-PF as a party that conforms to its constitution. Secondly, the President also briefed Politburo members on the just ended Former Liberation Movement Summit, which was held in South Africa. In fact, PB members were given copies of the President's speech that he made in South Africa. Thirdly, the President rallied the Politburo members, the party leadership, as well as central government to continue delivering for the people, because the people, Zimbabweans, elected ZANU-PF. So it is incumbent that they deliver for the people. Fourthly, the President reaffirmed his commitment to continue ushering economic enablers across the economic spectrum.
Now, Wallace, the President did emphasize on the need for the party to be guided by the Constitution. How important is that in ensuring ZANU-PF appeals to the electorate?
Well, the President's emphasis on constitutionalism was very important, especially to the electorate, because they get to see, they get to know that the ruling party does not operate haphazardly, but is guided by the Constitution and operates in the confines of the Constitution. Sorry about that. Which just shows that there is order in the ruling party, and thus Zimbabweans voted for ZANU-PF. And that is why ZANU-PF continues to maintain its power. That is why ZANU-PF continues to appeal to the masses. So yes, that was a very important aspect and one of the very big major highlights.
Thank you very much, Wallace, for that analysis. Have a good evening. Let's once again now take a quick look at some of the highlights from the President's address. Now, earlier today, the President emphasized the importance of the Monitoring and Evaluation Learning Initiative, which is currently underway in Harare, saying it reflects on the government's commitment to improve service delivery, tracking development projects, and enhancing the quality of life for all Zimbabweans.
Addressing the Monitoring and Evaluation Learning Week, which convened on Monday in Harare, President Mnangagwa reaffirmed government's commitment to strengthening monitoring and evaluation systems to improve policies and ensure Zimbabwe's sustainable transformation. The President described this initiative as a cornerstone for collective progress, transparency, and a result-oriented mindset.
This occasion reaffirms our unwavering commitment to the realization of Vision 2030. That of making Zimbabwe an upper middle income society. We stand united in our pursuit of evidence-based decision-making.
The President stressed that the government's agenda is centered on inclusivity with a focus on benefiting every member of society. This includes initiatives to support social and economic equality, and to provide opportunities for all citizens to thrive.
We will pave the way for sustainable transformation, leaving no one and no place behind. Nyika inovakwa nevenevaya ilizwe lakiwa na vanikazi valo.
Addressing delegates at the event, Special Advisor to the President on Monitoring and Implementation, Dr. Joram Gumbo laid down government's expectations from the Learning Week. He said service delivery can be improved by realigning commitment to building an inclusive society. Dr. Gumbo emphasized the importance of integrating monitoring, evaluation, and learning into every stage from strategic planning, program design, and execution.
Therefore, this breakfast meeting has been convened to reinforce the importance of integrating monitoring, evaluation, and learning into every stage of our work.
With studies showing that over 800 million people are trapped in extreme poverty and hunger, monitoring, evaluation, and learning remains a relevant catalyst to help reach the country's target of becoming an upper-middle income economy. The United Nations has assured of its continued support in strengthening national data ecosystems and building evaluation capacity for transformative action.
We cannot expect to achieve the SDGs without addressing and mainstreaming these critical issues. Let me conclude by saying that the United Nations stands ready to support the government of Zimbabwe's effort to strengthen national data ecosystem, build evaluation capacity, deepen learning, and also leverage our collective resources for transformative action. Let us move forward in partnership with solidarity.
While global emergencies and climate issues pose challenges in attaining set goals, strategic planning and assessment has become key in strengthening tools that will help advance economic development.
And still on our top stories, SADC chairperson President Mnangagwa is expected in Kenya on Thursday, where he will finalize the formal appointment of 5 facilitators to tackle the conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, together with his counterpart President William Ruto of Kenya, who is also the East African Community chairperson. Now, the meeting, which is expected to take place on Friday, will also formally adopt the documents relating to the facilitators' terms of reference and then discuss the funding modalities for the team. And apart from Presidents Mnangagwa and Dr. Ruto, the meeting will involve the facilitators.
His Excellency President Dr. Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa is the current chairperson of the SADC, and he, together with his colleague, His Excellency President Dr. William Ruto, who is also the current chair of the EAC, have been tasked by the Dar es Salaam Summit, the first joint summit between the two regional economic communities, that they should appoint a facilitation team. They should also brief the facilitation team after it has been appointed, and that they should also work towards the merger of the Luanda and Nairobi processes towards achieving peace in the DRC. So this meeting has been convened by their excellencies in order to come and do 3 main issues. The first one is to actually formalize the appointment of the 5 facilitators, panel of facilitators. And this include former President Obasanjo of Nigeria, the former President of Ethiopia, Zuid. There is also the former President of the Central African Republic, Catherine Panza. There is also the former President of Botswana, President Masisi.
Now, outgoing South African ambassador to Zimbabwe, Rejoice Mabudafasi, says Zimbabwe and South Africa are one, noting that she felt at home during her stay. Speaking after a farewell courtesy call on President Emmerson Mnangagwa at State House this morning, the ambassador said strengthening trade and economic relations between the two countries remains critical. She leaves Zimbabwe after serving as ambassador since 2021.
It has become my home, the way I say it here, and more so that I also learned Shona, even if it's a bit crooked, but I do in Swaktaura. But what I love best is that, I love the country. When I came for the first time, I made a point that every weekend I go to some places I know. So I think I know Zimbabwe better than yourselves. I know that they will be able to say what I've been doing, because sometimes you find that there's something crooked. But above all, I really love here. And I also have relatives here, in case you didn't know. So I'm not just a South African only. I'm a part of Zimbabwe.
Now, still to come on Newsplus, Finance Minister unveils the timeline for business levies reform.
Good evening and welcome to the greatest show on earth. This is a people's game. They will be bubbling about this one for weeks and months to come. Let's go!
Wherever you are, whatever your reason, it's on SuperSport all season long. Reconnect and stay connected to DSTV Compact and get the best football on us.
The Phoenix Podcast has always brought you the best of the best.
I missed on that blessing, but I also regained it in some way.
In seasons 1 and 2, we introduced you to the industry's brightest stars, the ones at the top of their game, the creme de la creme. But season 3 promises to be even more exciting. We're bringing you even more fascinating guests, including the renowned farmer, Patrick Matadi. And to top it all off, our very own host, Ken Sharp, will be stepping out of the interviewer's chair and into the hot seat as he gets interviewed by a surprise guest host.
From the boss, we've been beaten, but we're not beaten yet. We can still rise.
Konapo, Ipapo, ZTN Prime, DSTV Channel 294, the place to be.
Welcome back. You are still watching Newsplus. Now, Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube says Zimbabwe will begin reviewing business licenses and levies within the next 6 months, starting with agriculture. The sector will receive relief measures in the coming weeks, and this follows a directive by President Mnangagwa to reduce the cost of doing business. Market watchers have welcomed this move, saying it could ease operational pressure and unlock growth.
So you want to open a business in Zimbabwe right now. If it's a supermarket, you need about 25 permits. To run a dairy farm, you need about 26. According to the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries, some businesses face about 50 different taxes, licenses, and permits. So imagine how daunting it is for one who wants to grow their business or even formalize it. It's already expensive before you decide to pay your workers.
Some of the agencies or some of the people who enforce compliance do it with such a heavy hand. The best is to just stay off their radar. you don't even want them to know that you exist.
Now the government is moving to ease the cost of doing business by revising levies and licensing fees obligations. Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube confirmed that sector-by-sector cuts to business levies and licenses will begin soon, with agriculture the first in line for relief.
We should, next week, the week after, conclude on the agricultural sector, and we're making announcements about specific fees and reviews of fees and levies for the agricultural sector. That will be the first sector we'll consider.
The agriculture sector, long weighed down by a web of charges and permits, could see a significant cost reduction. And for businesses across the board, the move signal progress on a long-standing concern that high regulatory costs are stifling growth.
Businesses they've been given an early way of an easy way of doing businesses. It creates the appetite for investment in Zimbabwe as it is removing all the red tapes that we are associated with doing business in Zimbabwe.
As Zimbabwe pushes for private sector-led growth, the phased reduction of levies could remove one of the biggest hurdles for entrepreneurs and investors. Reporting for ZTM Prime, I am Melissa Chatkubo in Harare.
And in other news, preparations for the 45th anniversary of the Zimbabwe Defence Forces Day celebrations, set for August 12th at Rufaro Stadium in Harare, are at an advanced stage. In addressing the media in Harare earlier today, Defence Minister Ophamchinguri Kashiri highlighted that the provincial celebrations will also take place at traditional venues across the country.
Traditionally, these celebrations are preluded by a Community Assistance Week program where we showcase our corporate social responsibility programs. Chief among them is the construction of schools, clinics, footbridges, and medical outreach programs. The Zimbabwe Defence Forces Community Assistance work will run from 28 July to the 7th of August 2025.
Now, as Zimbabwe prepares to commemorate Heroes Day on August 11, a day dedicated to honoring the sacrifices made by the country's gallant sons and daughters for freedom from colonial rule, we take a look at the life of George Silundika, the first national hero to be buried at the National Shrine.
Tarsisius Malan George Silundika was an early nationalist who became the first black minister of roads and road traffic, posts and telecommunications after independence. Born in March 1929 in Plumtree, Silundika attended Empandeni Mission Primary School and St. Francis College, Mariannhill, Natal in 1945. In 1951, he attended Fort Hare in South Africa and was expelled the following year for political activism. In 1954, he enrolled at Pius XII University College, Roma, in Vasutuland, now Lesotho, but was forced to leave after 1 year due to lack of funds. Silundika taught for 2 years at Empandeni Secondary School before joining the Federal Broadcasting Corporation in 1958. He then joined the University of Rhodesia, where he worked as a research assistant in the Department of African Studies. Silundika was a founder member of the National Democratic Party, NDP, and was elected Secretary General at the party's first Congress in November 1960, after leading a march of 7,000 in July of the same year. He was the Publicity Secretary of the PCC and external representative of the party in Lusaka, Zambia in 1963. In 1976, he was the Secretary for Information of the ANC and was a ZAPU delegate to Geneva and also a ZAPU delegate to the Lancaster House Conference in 1979. In 1980, he was elected a House of Assembly member for Matabeleland South and Minister of Posts and Telecommunications. In 1981, he was appointed Minister of Roads and Road Traffic, Posts and Telecommunications. George Silundika suffered a stroke while he was working in his office on 9 April 1981 and was laid to rest at the National Heroes Acre in Harare.
Meanwhile, the Zimbabwe Defence Forces has reaffirmed its commitment to supporting national development in communities that are surrounding military cantonment areas. This was revealed today at the commissioning of a new double-story classroom block at Warren Park 6 Primary School to mark the 2025 ZDF Community Assistance Week. Francisca Msheche gives us more in the following report.
Speaking at the official handover ceremony of the block, Commander Zimbabwe National Army Lieutenant General Emmanuel Matatu highlighted that such projects align with the government's broader infrastructure development strategy and the Sustainable Development Goal 4, which promotes inclusive and quality education for all.
And I really would like to appreciate and thank all of you and all those who played a part, who contributed in one way or another to the completion of this wonderful structure that we see here today.
This is one of the many infrastructural development projects by the ZDF around the country, underscoring the force's key role as a partner in national development.
It resonates with what our Commander-in-Chief and President always reminds us, that Nyika inowakwa newe newayo. And I've heard this afternoon another version that says zvikoro zvinovakwa nemasoja azvo.
Addressing the media in Harare earlier today, Defense Minister Opamuchinguri Kashiri emphasized that this is part of an ongoing initiative meant to uplift communities through education-focused infrastructural development.
As we render this noble assistance, we work in collaboration with other government ministries, departments, and agencies. The rationale behind the ZDF community assistance projects is the spirit of giving back to the community.
Warren Park 6 Primary School headmaster Michael Ndoro expressed gratitude and appealed to the government for continued support of such initiatives.
Ndoda kukuudzaiwo kuti nyika inovakwa nevene vayo sapresident zvavakataura handiti. Asi isu tiri kuti zvikoro izvozvi izvi zvinovakwa nemasoja azvo.
Students noted that the new classrooms will help decongest their learning spaces and enhance their academic experience.
Because I, as a learner, think that it will help you educate hot sitting effectively, and also it actually helps us in having equal time while learning.
As Zimbabwe pushes forward with its education and infrastructure goals under Vision 2030, partnerships like this are proving vital. For the learners at Warren Park 6 Primary, the new classroom block is more than just brick and mortar. It's a gateway to a brighter future. For ZTN Prime, I am Francisca Msheche in Harare.
Now, Mashonaland East Province will host a fundraising program in Marondera on the 2nd of August to combat drug and substance abuse, with a target to raise $250,000 to support prevention, treatment and rehabilitation programs. This event, themed Say No to Drugs, will be graced by the Minister of Youth Empowerment, Development and Vocational Training, Tino Machakaire, and the Minister of Local Government and Public Works, Daniel Garwe. And speaking ahead of the fundraising event, Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Advocate Itai Ndudzo, emphasized the need to dismantle illicit drug supply chains through a multi-sectoral approach to address the escalating addiction crisis, with the funds raised expected to make a significant impact.
You are aware that stakeholders from the corporate sector, the political sector, convened and made their contributions. In the spirit of devolution, we are bringing exactly the same program to Mashonaland East Province on the 2nd of August 2025. We've invited our traditional leaders, we've invited all our senators, all our legislators, all the ministers who have been appointed by His Excellency the President of the Republic from Mashonaland East Province. We're bringing on board our farmers, our miners, our manufacturers, our development partners that will enable us to take head-on the challenge of drugs and substance abuse in Mashonaland East Province. We intend to ensure that we cut and decimate all the supply chains of drugs and the substances. We want to be able to nab all the culprits, everyone who is involved in any way in the supply, in the trade of drugs and substances. We want the resources to be able to identify them, to apprehend them, and to successfully prosecute them.
Now, businessman Shingai Levison Muringi has been ordered to serve an alternative sentence of 4 months in prison after he defaulted on community service. Muringi was convicted of contempt of court after he deliberately disposed of a motor vehicle in violation of a court order and was sentenced to 4 months imprisonment, which was wholly suspended on condition that he performs community service. However, according to the evidence presented by prosecutor Mr. Tapudzwa Jambao in the form of affidavit from the station where he was supposed to perform the unpaid work, Muringi never showed up and was in willful default. Now, presiding magistrate Lisa Mutendereki was left with no choice but to order Muringi to serve the alternative sentence. The complainant in the matter was businessman Patrick Chimpa Mutena. Now, stay tuned to Newsplus from some stories from the world around us.
game, they will be bubbling about this one for weeks and months to come.
Wherever you are, whatever your reason, it's on SuperSport all season long. Reconnect and stay connected to DSTV Compact and get the best football on us.
Catch exclusive interviews every weekday for candid, exciting and thought-provoking conversations with your host, Erika Ndoro.
We talk about arts, we can talk about sports, we can even talk about politics, and sometimes we venture into a nice guitaristic play.
Ita iza munona.
The one story where you can't get out of your head.
Wakatarisa munhu so Erika like where you are sitting. Nozongokona bata face so pasina munhu.
Wakasiya music yako yo afro chakuti ndo music manje no Zimbabwe.
And I'm sure they're still saying the same thing now.
Yeah, so
Shona kana kuti chindevere kana mumwe mutaure muno muZimbabwe ndiwe iwewe ndiwo rupawo rwako ndicho chidadiso chako.
Catch me, Erika Ndoro, right here on ZTN Prime every single Monday at 7 p.m. whilst we get exclusive.
Welcome back. You're watching Wednesday's edition of Newsplus this evening. Now, global South nations are shedding outdated associations with hunger and want and becoming true pictures of economic growth thanks to big leaps forward in agriculture, climate adaptation, and harvesting. Now, with Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe all removed from the list of global hunger hotspots last month, there has been a conversation with representatives of the UN's WFP, the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, and local producers and vendors about what's going right, what others can learn, and how exactly the Global South is on the rise.
So I think what is important to mention that is this success in these countries is also due to the partnership that these countries have had with the German partners, especially the WFP and FAO. So alongside these government, FAO and other partners provided the technical expertise, but also the financial support in the key areas for food production and productivity. We can also mention the smallholder farmers adopted diversified and sustainable farming models, and especially agroecological practices. Like in Zimbabwe, the practice of Funvunza for many years has really shown good results.
Now, Edith Lukabwe, a mother and activist who is raising 98 children with disabilities at her Home of Hope orphanage in Jinja, has become a strong voice for love and care in Uganda. She founded Home of Hope when her son was 3 years old. And although he died at 14, his legacy lives on in the hospital and home named in his memory. A typical day at the Home of Hope starts early in the morning and is divided into day and night shifts, as some children need feeding at night to keep under immunity up. Now, Uganda, which is home to nearly 50 million people, has over 6 million people with disabilities, and deep-rooted beliefs still cast special needs as a curse. Education on disabilities remains largely absent from government-run schools and local clinics in Uganda, pushing many families to turn to traditional healers.
I just want to give these children hope, to love them, to take care of them, to show them that they are also human beings and they need and they deserve love and care too. It took me like only 6 months and I got like 25 kids, but most of them were just being abandoned. And right now I'm a mother of 98 children, excluding my biological. So if I add on my biological children, they are 104.
And in other news, traditional Ghanaian leaders and members of the African diaspora gathered in Cape Coast to mark this year's Panafest and Emancipation Day celebrations, showcasing the nation's vibrant cultural and ancestral heritage. Now in its 17th edition, this year's festival centers on themes of justice, healing, and the revival of African consciousness, presenting Ghana as a spiritual homeland for people of African descent. Now, Emancipation Day, observed on August 1 in nations such as Trinidad and Tobago, commemorates the abolition of slavery. And Panafest serves as a cultural bridge between Africa and its global diaspora, often coinciding with Emancipation Day.
Beyond the finance, some of us want to see a time when Africans are not living at the razor edge of life, no matter where they are, no matter how rich the country is or how poor that country is. We ought to live like other people also live. Find our levels of confidence, see ourselves in the future, and not to be afraid. That is also important. And that goes beyond money. It goes beyond being ourselves and also making our contributions to the world like everybody else does.
Now, doctors at the Russian Far East Kamchatka Oncological Dispensary were seen continuing with their surgery as a huge earthquake hit on Wednesday. This footage shows surgeons and nurses standing beside the patient, holding medical equipment as tremors shook the building. And according to the Minister of Health, the patient remained in good condition, and the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations announced a significant earthquake in the Kamchatka region. Later, they convened an urgent meeting of the Emergency Prevention and Response Commission, during which the Minister of Health outlined plans to strengthen the healthcare system and assess residential buildings. And still on our global news, an official has said the United Nations World Food Programme, WFP, could officially declare a famine in the Gaza Strip unless conditions drastically improve, noting this would represent only the fifth famine of the century. And according to the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, reports released on the same day, 2 out of the 3 famine thresholds have been reached in Gaza, with plummeting food consumption and acute malnutrition being observed.
So if we get a pause, we would expect these indicators to improve. We would expect things to evolve in the right direction. Now, if this doesn't happen, what you're seeing is that you'd have a famine would be confirmed, and it would cover more areas. Since the IPC system has existed, there have only been 4 famines in this century. So that's been Somalia in 2011, South Sudan twice, and then Sudan, which is also ongoing now. So this tells you that these are very rare, very serious events, and we need to respond now at scale, as my colleagues have insisted.
And in the U.S., the Trump administration's proposed major cuts to housing programs, including ending housing first, could exacerbate homelessness by directly endangering permanent supportive housing for a significant number of elderly and disabled residents throughout the United States, placing them at grave risk of losing their shelter. Now, in Miami, Hideaway Bay is a motel-turned-shelter that opened in April and can accommodate over 100 people. And currently, 48 residents, including homeless seniors and disabled citizens, reside here. However, proposed changes in U.S. housing policy jeopardize their sanctuary.
We believe that is going to collapse of its own weight. I think it's unreasonable to expect a disabled senior citizen to get employment in that 2-year hiatus period. Here's what I can tell you. We got between a 94 and a 96% success rate when we place somebody in permanent supportive housing.
Now, as torrential rains unleashed widespread flooding across Beijing and neighboring regions, emergency services have ramped up rescue and relief operations in a desperate bid to save lives and restore order. Now, hard-hit towns such as Miyun, as well as other parts of Beijing, show an unfolding disaster. Entire neighborhoods inundated, roads and bridges destroyed, and debris scattered across waterlogged streets. Now, homes have been engulfed by floodwaters, leaving many residents stranded. And rescue staff and volunteers were seen evacuating residents using rubber boats and bulldozers to relocation sites, providing them with supplies and clearing debris from the roads with excavators. And on Monday, Chinese President Xi Jinping urged officials to prepare for worst-case scenarios and to accelerate the evacuation of people that are living in flood-prone areas. Now stay tuned to Newsplus for business news ahead.
Didn't graduate? I guess I blew it.
You couldn't advise him anything. He would just look at you and say, so who do you think you are?
We were just like really spoiled.
And then they just give me the receipt and I'd pay.
The guy walks in one day and then he says that he wants to make a movie.
He was blowing the money.
There was just like this habit that he had where as soon as he got money, it was gone.
I just didn't have the skills or the experience.
This money, I could see it disappear so fast.
They call me Racer X, or in this case, Racer J.
Put your seatbelt on.
It's time now to take a look at what's happening in the world of business right here on Newsplus. Now, cybercrime is predicted to cost the world $10.5 trillion annually this year, up from $3 trillion in 2015, and that's a staggering 15% annual growth. Melissa Chatikobo gives us more in the following report.
It took just one click, and everything was gone. In 2018, Munashi Guja, a content creator, lost access to his Instagram account with over 18,000 followers. His digital livelihood gone in an instant.
So I get first time yangu nangasenda tumbo experience kuti chichi chinonzi kuyekerwa ndakava ndatodzidza ipapo ndasienda code yaya kwaari ndakangoona ndabudiswa zvikanzi you've been logged out account chichikuitika panapo ndakaita stress andunyepera zvekuti ndakatomboonda.
What seemed like a small breach left lasting emotional damage, and Munashi is not alone. Across Africa, cybercrime is on the rise, costing billions each year. Yet experts say cybersecurity still isn't being treated as a national security priority. Asset East and Southern Africa cybersecurity engineer Alan Juma says in today's world, data is currency. Governments protect money and borders, but they must now also protect digital infrastructure.
Government will drive policy. The government will set the pace, will set the agenda for some of these things. It will set legislation, and once the legislation has been set, then definitely organizations will fall in line. Let's say, for example, the banking sector. The central bank has a certain standard for banks, the rates, whatnot, and this needs to be the same under Potras. Potras needs to come up with the legislation, and it has done a good job.
While countries like Zimbabwe are embracing digital innovations, from telehealth to e-learning, this progress also expands the attack surface.
Unfortunately, that boom also has had its challenges because criminals also want to take advantage of this provision of services to wreak havoc just for the kicks of it, also for financial gain. So we are seeing a lot of improvement and uptake of telehealth, but also a lot of attacks.
As innovation spreads, cyber criminals follow, and without proper safeguards, the cost could be far greater. Zimbabwe has already put in measures such as the Cyber and Data Protection Act to safeguard its citizens.
Security needs to be not an afterthought, but at the forefront. It needs to be baked in even as you're providing any service.
As digital adoption deepens, commitment to cybersecurity must grow with it. For Zimbabwean businesses and other African countries, protecting information is no longer optional. It's essential for survival. Reporting for ZTM Prime, I am Melissa Chatkubo in Harare.
Now, the Office of the President and Cabinet has started a series of thematic consultative workshops for the formulation of strategies towards the realization of priority areas under the forthcoming National Development Strategy 2, NDS2. And at least 10 thematic working groups representing 10 priority areas of government have been set up with consultation running until August 15. And Chairperson of the Social Cluster and Deputy Chief Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Willard Manungo, said the consultations were aimed at developing the NDS2 blueprint, which is expected to be launched at the end of this year.
National results framework for NDS2. And we want them to, this thematic working group, to draw from the national results framework. We want them to draw the sectoral results framework around social development and social protection. And then thereafter, we want them to come up with the transformative, indicative interventions that will be required over the period 2026 to 2030, broken down into 2026, 2027, 2028, 29, and then 2030. And then finally, we also want them to develop the annual targets around the interventions that they would profit.
Now, co-chairperson and also Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare Permanent Secretary Simon Masanga highlighted some of the achievements of the predecessor NDS1.
2023-2024, we were feeding in excess of 6 million people, and true to his word, no one died of hunger. School dropout rates, we have managed to contain that. The BEAM program is up and running, ensuring that every child in school. We are protecting women from abuse, and the programs that are running in the Ministry of Women Affairs are testimony to what we can do to protect our women and other vulnerable members of society. We now have a disability department in this country which was never there before, to look at issues of empowerment related to older persons, skills development. We have a number of vocational training centers in this country, but we need, especially under NDS2, to upgrade this VTC to offer courses that are relevant and assist us in the turnaround of this economy.
That wraps up our business updates, but still to come in sport, Taylor added to Chevron's test squad after competing ban.
Two fans, one game. One of them paid for quality, the other didn't. ZTM Prime now offers premium live Premier Soccer League matches behind a paywall. Skip the stress. Watch your team in high definition, uninterrupted and in real time. The ZTM Prime are paywall matches because real fans watch live.
In a world where music transcends boundaries, where rhythm and melody unite the hearts of people, comes a show that celebrates the power of music like never before. Get ready to dive into a sonic journey that will leave you mesmerized and yearning for more. Welcome to the captivating world of Z Vibes. Vibe to it, baby.
You are still watching Newsplus. Now picking up from where we left off, Brendan Taylor has been added to the Chevron squad for the second test match against New Zealand, scheduled for 7 to 11 August at Queen's Sports Club in Bulawayo. Now, Taylor became available for selection following the completion of a 3.5-year suspension imposed by the International Cricket Council, ICC, after he accepted a responsibility for breaching both the ICC Anti-Corruption Code and the ICC Anti-Doping Code. Now, Chevron's test captain Craig Irvin welcomed Taylor's return.
Yeah, look, he'll obviously be available for the second test, but I also know how hard he's worked in his individual capacity, I think, especially over the last 8, 10, 12 months in order for this to happen. So I'm really excited to have him come back into the space in the next few days, and looking forward to what he has to contribute to the team and the group. Yeah, I think it is crucial because, you know, he's going to be coming from a space where he was exceptional in his international career, obviously before the ban, and then obviously having to go through that process as an individual. So I think, you know, from his mental space, I think you'll see possibly a slightly different Brendan Taylor, and I think the juniors can certainly learn a lot from his experience, I think, as a cricketer from before, and also the transition that he's been through in order to get himself back.
Now, we spoke to Zimpaper's Sports Hub cricket analyst Ruvimbo Chakoreka and asked him how Taylor's return has been received.
So when we look at Brendan Taylor coming back into the fold, while it has its negatives and positives around it, already there's a whole lot of conversation and talk around the fact of Brendan Taylor coming back into the setup. Zimbabwe Cricket, by bringing Brendan Taylor back, have clearly admitted that we don't have the quality and the talent that Brendan Taylor had or has within our current setup that is able to carry us forward. And let's look at it very closely. We've lost a couple of series here now very, very poorly. I mean, we were hammered by South Africa. We were hammered by New Zealand. We were hammered in the test matches by South Africa. We were hammered senselessly within the series, and we're seeing that also beginning to perpetuate itself in the under-19 setup as well as the women's setup. So the need for quality talent is there, and Zimbabwe Cricket have duly obliged and have taken on Brendan Taylor. One of the other things as well, this definitely admits, is the fact that there is a need for a wicket-keeper batsman, because Brendan Taylor was also seen taking on the gloves and ultimately taking on the bat.
Now, Chakoreka also shared his insights on the contribution the Chevrons can expect from Taylor during the New Zealand Test series and beyond.
For our lineup, to be honest, I think it will bring quite a lot of positivity if he is half of the talent that we know he was before he was banned by the ICC. Then I can firmly tell you that he will bring quality to our batting lineup, more runs. In terms of getting victories, well, we're not so sure. It might help, but I don't think there's too much time left on the clock. This is a stopgap measure that Zimbabwe Cricket have employed, and hopefully within the time that Brendan Taylor will still be in the structures, it's time for Zimbabwe Cricket to deal with their grassroots problem, to deal with the high performance setup, to increase and capacitate the skill development of all of the youngsters that they've thrown into the fray right now, who are struggling to swim in the deep end of international cricket. So ultimately, at the end of the day, Brendan Taylor, very much welcome to the side. For Zimbabwe Cricket, an acknowledgement that we need quality and depth. And ultimately, for the rest of the players that may have been putting their hands up, well, another stumbling block to get over in order to get into the Chevron side.
That was an analysis on Brendan Taylor's return to playing cricket for Zimbabwe. Now, New Zealand returned to Test cricket for the first time in 12 months in dominant style on day one of the first Test against Zimbabwe at Queen's Sports Club in Bulawayo. Matt Henry was the pick of the bowlers with 6 wickets as the Chevrons were bowled out for 139 in the first innings. And Chevrons Test captain Craig Evan had 39, had little support on a difficult opening day. At stumps on day one, the Black Caps were 92 without loss, with Devon Conway unbeaten on 51, while Will Young had 41. Now, play resumes at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And reigning champions Simba Bora are set to make more additions to their squad ahead of the close of the mid-season transfer window tomorrow. Now, the PSL log leaders are reportedly close to signing Highlanders midfielder Makinan Mushore on loan until the end of the season. And ZPC Kariba defender Boyd Mutukure is also set to make the switch to Shamba on a permanent deal. The duo joined Tavonga Kulea, Nomo Tabora, and Tapiwa Mandinyenya as the club's new signings during the transfer window. Tinomeke and Harrison Masina have been loaned out to Green Fuel, while Malvin Wata has been sent to the Chicken Inn on the loan deal. And still on sport, Yado coach Maxwell Takaende Sajongwe says his side must strike the right balance between squad composition and survival if they are to end the season strongly. More in the following report.
Yada's fight to climb out of the relegation places suffered a bump in Monday's 1-0 defeat to Scotland. The Miracle Boys occupy the last of the relegation places in a stacked bottom half of the table, where 9 teams are caught up in a tricky fight for survival. Prior to Monday's defeat, the Maxwell Takaende Sajongwe coach side was on a 3-match unbeaten run that inspired hopes of climbing out of the drop zone. After collecting 10 points out of a possible 15 before the Scotland game, Yada know that they have enough in their ranks to grind results, and the coach wants a quick comeback from the setback.
I'm hopeful. We don't then take long to recover from this defeat. We must, and it's just a must. We must quickly recover and start collecting points. I mean, we are crowded there. I think it's about 9 teams there. So I hope we will quickly recover and start picking up points.
Despite a difficult start to the season with a depleted squad due to a FIFA-imposed transfer ban, Yada managed to reinforce the squad with key loan signings. The arrival of experienced names like goalkeeper Taimon Mvula, playmakers King Nadolo and Innocent Michaneka has added depth to the team. Promising youngsters such as Shingai Masukuta and Takunda Vareta have also brought fresh energy, with Jongwe stressing the importance of blending youth development with league ambitions.
There has to be a succession program, and you want to have a number of youngsters coming in, and they give him a lot of energy. He's doing very well. Masukuta he's actually like he has nailed his jersey in the first 11. We hope we will be introducing another youngster again.
The road ahead will be testing for Yada, with upcoming fixtures against fellow strugglers Triangle United, a resurgent Caps United, and title contenders Ngezi Platinum Stars in a run that could define their season.
And that's a wrap on Newsplus this evening. Thank you very much for watching. I am Wadzanai Sansole. Have a good night.